Hi, and welcome to the Friday Live thing with me, Mark Thompson, and Tim there, or Mr. One half a head of hair between the two of them. Look, it's getting worse, mate. Look, it is getting worse. Right, anyway.
Petal dust.
So, welcome.
I've been like this for the last 20 years, mate. Seriously.
You're used to it. I used to have a beautiful head of hair. Anyway, that's enough of our problems. Welcome to the show. Right, following on from last week's show, we decided to actually go a little bit deeper and have some more ninja tricks, the proper top-level tricks that you can use on email marketing. Also, following on from last week's show, and I'll get this out of the way straight away, I realized I had a lot of courses that I'd stopped selling that were actually really, really good. And one of them was Email Infotainer. And I actually mentioned this to two people this week, and they went, "That's one of your best courses ever." So I'm doing a flash sale for Email Infotainer. Plus, I've thrown in two other courses: Email Marketer's Handbook, which is designed to sit on your desk and it's just best principles for email marketing, and Email Challenge, which is a challenge I did last year, which was basically build a list, send out emails, etc. The usual stuff.
SMO flash sale sounds very Black Friday-ish.
I know we don't do Black Friday, do we?
No, we don't do Black Friday.
We don't do. So we actually, this is sort of like Grey Friday.
Grey Thursday.
It's Friday, isn't it?
It is Friday. Yeah. Don't worry.
Don't scare me like that. Right.
I've got a couple of other things. Sorry, there was a couple of other things I was going to say. About Black Friday. After our call last week, I had a phone call with my Facebook ads rep. God help me. And one of the interesting things that she came out with was that basically she let on that at this time of year, there are 3 times the number of advertisers on Facebook at this time of year than at any other quarter of the year. And she reckons ad costs, like cost per thousand CPMs, will double in this month.
I was going to run an ad today.
Do you know what she said to me? She said, "So what have you got planned for this quarter?" And I was like, "I plan to turn all my ads off, if that's the case."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "What? Why would I spend twice as much to acquire the same customer that come middle of December, beginning of January, that I can pay half price for? What? Why would you?" She was like, "Fair point."
Right. I've got something else as well. I published this in the SMO free group earlier today. It is the video size that works best with Facebook ads. Now, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'll give you a spoiler. It's not what everyone thinks it is, and the cost is seriously, seriously different. So it's something I would highly recommend everyone testing for themselves. So you can just go along there to joinsmo.com/free or join. And if you already remember, log in there and just look at what I posted now. You're not going to have a look and give it away. This is clickbait.
Clickbait on a webinar.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on. You carry on while I just look at your the article.
Right. Anyway, so today we are going to talk about on-page tracking. No, we're not going to talk about on-page tracking. We're going to talk about a little bit of ninja Facebook stuff. No, email marketing. Man, I've been too busy this week. I had a 11-hour day the other day. I'm still suffering. I know, terrible. We're going to talk about ninja email marketing tricks. Right.
So we talked a lot about campaigns last week. So like the different sort of email campaigns that you should run, things like we talked about bounce back. We talked about engagement tagging. We talked about broadcast resend. We'll talk a little bit more about that today. We talked about cart abandoning sequences, new customer onboarding sequences, that kind of stuff. So if you really want to know about a bunch of different campaigns you should run, go watch last week's video. It's up on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it's everywhere else.
Yeah. So the interesting thing we're going to talk about today, like, okay, so you've got an email campaign, you're sending them out, you're doing your campaigns. How can you actually make them better? How can you like turn 30-40% open rate? How can you turn that 1 or 2% conversion rate into a 5% conversion rate? So that's what we're going to cover today. And it's not as difficult as you think. There's some very basic things that you can test, and underline that word, test.
Yeah.
Okay. Because everyone's audience is different. Everyone's campaigns are different. Everyone's writing ability is different, unless you buy email infotainer, in which case it's going to be awesome. Anyway, so the first one I'm going to talk about is on-page tracking. So who is most likely to buy from you? Is it somebody who's never been to your sales page? Or is it someone who's been to your sales page once, twice, 2, 3, 4, 5 times? With certain email service providers, I know it works with ActiveCampaign. I assume it works with Klaviyo, and I assume it works with pretty much all the decent ones. You can track people's actions. So when someone lands on your sales page, ActiveCampaign knows that somebody's gone from your email to your sales page. Within ActiveCampaign, you can then take that person, add them to a custom audience on Facebook. So then you can run a follow-up campaign. If you want, you can say, okay, I only want to send this if somebody has been to my sales page 3 times and haven't bought. I've actually got a campaign that runs, actually, it might be thinking about it, it might be going to the wrong sales page because I changed the sales page and forgot about this campaign. I mean, I forgot about this campaign because it just runs in the background. And all it does is somebody's been to SMO sales page 3 times and hasn't bought, it offers them a free trial, not a $1 trial. Okay, so actually I do think, I forgot, honestly, this is weird, I have completely forgot about this campaign that was running because it is just autopilot. You don't even think about it. So I think it actually goes to the wrong page now, so it's not going to work. So I better go back and check that out. But it's really simple. Someone goes to your page 3 times, send them out an offer. So that's that one. Up to you, mate.
This kind of comes back to some of the basics of marketing. And the not so late Dan Kennedy always talked about market, media, message, and the link between the 3. You have to have basically send the right message to the right people, with the right media. So like if for email marketing, you have to really think about, okay, so who's actually opening emails in the first place? Who is your target audience that is most likely to open those emails, read them, consume them, click on the link, all that kind of stuff. So you've really got to drill down to figure out exactly the type of person who's likely to read your emails. And not everybody reads emails. And in 2019, going into 2020, email is diminishing, but it's not diminishing as quickly as people think it is, or like the people who are trying to sell you courses on messenger bots and all that kind of crap. They have you believe that email is completely and utterly a waste of time. Considering that email for my business generates something in the region of 30 to 40% of our revenue every single month comes from email. So I'm not stopping with my email anytime soon. So with that in mind, there's a couple of things that you kind of need to sort of put in place in your emails. And I was talking to a very good friend of mine who Mark knows as well, but I'm not going to mention his name just to save the embarrassment. But unfortunately, he was getting only 4% open rate on his emails. And I was really blunt. I had to be really blunt with him. And I was like, that's shocking, dude. You've got one of the 2 things is wrong here. Either the message that you're putting out is wrong, or the people that you're speaking to is wrong. Okay. Has he read email infotainer? I don't think so. Anyway, so there's a couple of things you can do with your email to make them. One, you have to understand who it is you're sending the email to, but basically, don't be boring. You can't be boring at all in your email. Okay, so if you're boring, then people will stop opening your email, they'll stop clicking through and all that kind of stuff. So writing information is boring in a lot of times. I've been writing, allegedly, I've been writing about green powder for the last 7.5, 8 years. Technically, I haven't, because I've not been writing about green powder for 7.5, 8 years. I've been writing about people. I've been talking about stories. I've been talking about the challenges and the fun that people have, and like, the way that people live their lives differently to the rest of us. Something that's interesting and entertaining, back to that email infotainment stuff. So really, you can't be boring. You can't write just about technical, nerdy information. There is a place for that. And I think that 4% of this gentleman's email list found his stuff interesting, but they were never going to buy his stuff anyway, because the people who are interested in the nerdy stuff aren't going to buy your product, your service, because they're already nerds in your stuff anyway. So you have to write about stories. You have to write, to people, to humans, and not be boring.
Yeah. I sent out an email today about Star Trek. Okay. Here's a secret. I actually recycled it. I've actually used it about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I mean, I could have used it 6 months ago and most people wouldn't have remembered it.
Exactly.
But it's about Star Trek and communication and opening communication channels to Klingons.
Yeah.
But it's about communication, and then the transition from that into, hey, if you want to write interesting emails, go to smoflashsale.com and buy Email Infotainer.
Pitch.
I'm gonna pitch like a bitch today.
So I've seen that our good friend Anders has posted. Obviously, he's somewhere where it's a bit damp. In the UK, it's still very wet, and people are complaining at Boris Johnson for the weather. So yeah,
everything is his fault.
It is his fault, definitely his fault. Yeah. He'll make it sound like it's the fault of the EU, diplomats. So yeah, there we go.
Do both hands. Live long and prosper. Pac-Man.
That's the visual gag, by the way, for the day.
So you're the podcast, damn, you missed that visual gag.
So that's my main tip. I've got a couple more on my list, but go for it, Mark. What's yours?
Right, segmentation. Right, you've got to segment. You have got to segment your list. Okay.
When we talk about segmentation, we're talking about there's some fundamentals, I think, that I go for, and I don't know whether Mark goes for this, but the most obvious one is buyers versus prospects.
Yeah.
So you have a very, very distinct segment of people who already bought, who already given you money. That's your powerful list. Now you can go to the nth degree with that, and we do within our e-commerce business, where we segment our top buyers. So people who spend over £1,000 with us become what we call our whales. Not the country, the thing that swims around in the sea. The people who spend the most amount of money with us are extremely valuable to us. So we segment those, and we have a very different set of emails that go out to them versus somebody who's bought, say, just once. So segmenting between customers really, really important. Mark does some different stuff with segmentation, from the point of view of what action they're taking in prospects. So I'll let Mark do that.
Yeah, I mean, you can people who like email marketing, people who like affiliate marketing. Go back to what Tim said. The easiest sale you're ever going. No, the second easiest sale you're ever going to make is to somebody who's bought a product. Yeah. The first easiest sale you're ever going to make is someone who's bought 3 products.
Very much.
Honestly, you don't need a sales page.
Yep.
I often send emails out to some of our best customers, and I won't even bother with a sales page. I'll just say, I'm doing this, this, and this. Here's a link. Sign up here. And that's all you need to do. And that's basically what I did when I was in Mexico, on the basis of the 5K method. I was laying on the beach in Mexico, and I went through all the list of all the customers and stuff like that. And I picked out a certain segment of them who I thought, they're probably a good idea for them to buy this. I actually found something. I actually found something that actually benefit them.
Yeah.
And I sent out the email to them. Hence, the 70% of them visited the checkout, the cart. And I think 48% conversion rate or something ridiculous like that.
It's super important, and we even get down to, like, even with the thousands of customers that we have for Lean Greens, we still send out individual emails to individual customers. Now that is the ultimate in segmentation, because say for example, one of our best customers, their credit card is due to expire. We proactively do outreach to go and see if we can get them to reactivate or put in a new credit card information into the system, get them on the phone. That's the ultimate in segmentation of dealing with somebody one-on-one, because you know that they're getting benefit from your product and have done for the last couple of years. It makes sense. It's good customer service to reach out to that person on a one-on-one basis. Just so you can get, you can ensure that you can still profit from those people, and they'll love you for it because they suddenly feel really, really special. Now, you don't tell them that they're your top customer, but because by reaching out to them individually, they'll go, my God, this company is amazing. They reach out to people individually. They must do that. It's amazing that they do that for almost all of their customers. We don't, but they have the perception that that's what happens. So it spreads. They tell their friends about what a great service that they get from this particular company, and it spreads. So yeah, ultimate in segmentation in that respect.
Another sort of segmentation. Now, I have to admit, I was supposed to do this on the email that I just sent out. However, I ran out of time. But have a link. So bear in mind, I'm sending out an email now. It's about the offer, the flash sale. So I'm going to send 3 emails over the next few days. Now, it is a courtesy to have a link in there to let people opt out of it. Okay, so people have usually got the option to read an email or unsubscribe. Okay, if they open an email and they don't like it, if you give them, look, if you don't want to receive any emails for this promotion, for the emails, please click this link. Now, I should have done that, and I should have also excluded people from SMO from it. But we had about 5 minutes to go before we had to go live. So they'll forgive me. It's always easier to ask for an apology.
Yep.
But you can put a link in to an email, and someone clicks it, it tags them. And then next time you send an email out, you just exclude that tag. So exclude from email entertainer promotion, that tag. And then just apply it next time you go out, send it to everybody who hasn't got exclude from promo in it. Really easy. It's a common courtesy. Very few people do it. I didn't do it, but I should have done. So yeah, that's another good one.
So how do you get your open rates? How do you increase your open rates without, very, very simply, how do you get much better open rates for your emails? And one tip I always get out there is you get people to reply to your emails. So one of the first things I try and do with somebody who joins my list for the first time, I will say in the email, do me a quick favor, just to make sure, keep the email gods happy, to make sure I know that you've got this email. Can you just hit reply and send me a quick message to say, hi, I've got this email? What this does is it does 2 things. One, it actually it sends a signal to the email platform that they are on, that the sender of that particular email is a legitimate email person, that they are somebody that you should be delivering emails from all of the time. The second thing that it does is it opens up a customer service loop with the customer, or with a potential customer. And it's a way to kind of engage with somebody one-on-one. And people are always afraid of engaging people, and they want to automate everything and make stuff so that they can sit on the beach drinking tequilas and whatever, and do what internet entrepreneurs do. But ultimately, getting people to respond to you and getting people to speak to you one-on-one is huge, because they're much, much more likely to become a customer at that point. And we do this with Lean Greens. Even though the average customer value is only a couple of £100, it's still a couple of £100. That potential customer could potentially become a couple of £1,000 or £5,000 or £6,000 in some cases for our customers. So it makes sense to do what we can to create a stronger connection with that customer. So definitely ask people in the first email that goes out, ask them to respond, ask them to click reply and say, yes, I got this, even if it's just a couple of words, and that's it. And we've got a support person in our team who gets some of these replies, and it's funny. She's just like, why are these people responding? And I was like, because I've asked them to. And it's like, and she was like, but what do we say to them? And I was like, well, engage with them, talk to them, say thank you, hope you're going to have a nice weekend, blah, 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 whatever. It doesn't really matter. We've had that engagement more than just sending out an automated email. We've got a actual engagement with a real person, two-way conversation between two people, which makes the connection much, much stronger. So that's how you increase your open rates significantly for your emails.
One interesting thing is a lot of people don't use Gmail now to get their emails. So for that, you have to get out of the promotion tab into the main tab. Okay, so you can ask people to drag it in there. That's one thing to do. But the other thing is, there's certain words that trigger the promotion tab. And I actually bought a course this week that has a list of them.
Friday being one of them, by the way.
Yeah, Black Friday. Another one is, and you're going to laugh at this, by having 5K or 10K. So having the 5K method could be a bit of a problem. I laugh at myself. So if anybody gets an email talking about the FIVEKAY method, then you know why I'm doing that from now on. So from now on, I'll be referring to this list when I'm buying domain names and naming products.
Brilliant.
No, it's not brilliant. It's not fun in the slightest.
So the next thing on my list, and I'll leave Mark's one for the moment, the second subject line. Now, a lot of the email providers are now actually the email service providers, things like Klaviyo and ActiveCampaign. They've now got a specific box for this. When you prepare an email, you can write the first email. I know that Drip does it as well. So basically, where you put in your main email subject, and then you have the second headline. Now, the second headline is essentially the preview that appears. So when you go onto Google Mail or Gmail and you open up your email and you see the subject line and it's got the first bit of text from the email, so it gives you a bit of a preview of what the email is actually going to say. We can now specify what goes in that second headline, and it's quite a useful thing for especially when you want to write a longer headline. And Mark talks about like eight-word email headlines, subject lines. It's a great way of doubling that essentially, and getting more another call to action. And here's something that we've been doing quite a lot is I spoke last week about the resend campaign that we do, which is basically when we send a broadcast message, about 16 to 30 hours after the first email has been sent out, we resend the same email to people who didn't open the first time. And what we do is we send it out at a different time of day to the first email, but we also switch the headlines. So whatever was in the second headline, I now put in the primary headline, and vice versa. So that's a great way of getting more open rates, which then ties in quite nicely to the emojis thing that Mark's going to talk about.
Yeah, so headlines. Headlines are probably the most important thing you write. I know people who spend 30 seconds writing a headline and half an hour writing an email. It should probably be the other way around. You spend time on your emails, on your headlines, sorry. So for example, you have got things you can do like add emojis. So I say the email I've sent out today, I've got 3 emojis in the headline. Don't overuse it. And don't do it every email. But if you've got something special, stick an emoji up there because it stands out in people's inboxes. So you use those. You can be very literal with emojis. There's emojis for it. There's even emojis for pretzels. I discovered the other day because I accidentally sent it instead of thank you. Oh no, it was supposed to be thumbs up, and I actually sent pretzel. That caused even longer conversation.
So you can put those into like the second headline as well normally. Yeah. So you can put the emoji into the second headline, and again, if you're doing the resend, put the emoji in the primary headline for the first time, and on the resend, put it into the secondary headline, which has worked quite well for us over the last year or so. You can overdo it, as you say, with emojis, where it gets, I've actually sent an email out with 10 emojis in the headline, and funny enough, it got a crap open rate. I think it probably got spammed, but there we go.
Can you imagine all the aliens in 5,000 years' time when they come to Earth and they discover that we still had hieroglyphs in 2020?
Yeah, exactly.
So the other thing about headlines as well, or the subject line, is try not to exceed 8 words. Because I read today, in actually one of Ian Stanley's emails, that the human brain can see 7 or 8 words as a phrase. Anything more than that, and it doesn't see it as a phrase. So try and keep them short and snappy.
Certainly with headlines, with subject lines, I end up initially when I start writing an email, I write a headline, I write the email, and then what normally happens is I go back and change the headline. So the email which I sent out to Lean Green's subscribers today or customers today was something along the lines of do I have a Greek god bod? I think was the with a bicep thing, which initially I came up with this really boring subject line, but then I came up with that one as being, but I had to write the email before I figured out actually what I was, what the right headline was. So yeah, sometimes it takes a little while to filter through to what the best or what.
We've said this loads and loads of times. Now, when you write an email, start with your call to action.
Yeah.
Then write your main body. Then write a transition from that to that, and then when you're finally finished, think of a headline that reflects what you've written. I honestly, 90% of the time I write an email, I haven't got a clue where it's going until it's finished. So it's pointless writing a headline first. Sometimes I'll come up with a headline and then write an email around it. But most of the time it's like I come up with a call to action, something what I want to achieve, then I'll write the body and then the transaction and finally the headline. So yeah.
Sorry, the other thing which I was going to say was, one of the things that people kind of ask is like, oh, well, how often should I email? How, what time of day should I email? And all of those kind of things. And to be honest with you, as long as you're not sending it at a completely weird time, like 3 o'clock in the morning, unless your customers, clients, prospects are night owls, really don't send it at 3 o'clock in the morning. But ultimately, what I've found is it really doesn't matter too much. I've experimented with different times of day. A lot of our customers are generally sort of like, they'll, I try to get an email to go out, to send out, say at 6 o'clock in the morning. So there's a really weird stat that basically says that people will open their phone and read either social media or their email before they brush their teeth. There's like something like 75% of people will do that. So yeah, I would certainly suggest experimenting with the timing of it, but don't forget that there's also say for example you're dealing with mums or parents. Let's keep it like 2019. Parents going to pick up their kids from school at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, certainly in the UK or wherever you are in the world, depending on what's the optimum time that they're going to pick up their kids. And like normally they'll be sat there on their mobile phone, just idly passing the time either on social media or looking at their emails. So that's also a good time to send out an email. So experiment, don't get tied up to like, oh, this is the exact time to send an email. And when it comes to frequency, You'll see things like from Ben Settle, and he sends an email every day, and then when he's got a particular promotion, he'll send like 10 emails in a day, which is just like, it seems absolutely bonkers, but people respond to that, or his audience responds to that. If I sent 10 emails in a day, I think my email subscribers might have a bit of a meltdown at me. But it's like, we send out probably on average 2 to 3 emails a week. And along with the resends that we have and this different segmentation that we have, sometimes a customer will receive an email 4 times a week, and sometimes they'll receive just 1 a week. So just, be aware of, not overloading, but at the same time that you can send out more emails than you think.
Yeah. I mean, one thing you really the question shouldn't be, how often should I send an email? It's how often must I send an email? So you must, I would say, send at least 1 a week.
Yes.
Because if you don't send 1 a week, people are just going to forget you. You're not an email marketer. You go off their radar. Then the people like Ben Settle who email daily are on their radar. So
it's the interesting thing, though. It's like I've noticed this literally in the last week or so. Obviously, we're warming up to good old Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and all that kind of nonsense. It's like all of a sudden I'm starting to get emails from people I haven't heard from in over a year. And I'm like, seriously, dude, I didn't want to get your emails a year ago. I certainly don't want to receive them now. So I'm unsubscribing from a whole bunch of them.
Me too.
Because they're all of these people have come out the woodwork, and I'm like, hold on a second, I haven't heard from you for freaking ages. And that's really, really like a bad situation to be in, when people have forgotten about that person, and then all of a sudden they pop up and you go, well, that's really obvious that you're just trying to sell me some shit by the end of the month for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It's madness. The thing is like, say for example, I love my mountain biking, and I'm signed up to various different email lists for, say, for example, Chain Reaction or Wiggle or Treads or whoever the different biking company. They send an email pretty much every day or every other day of the week anyway. And it's like, I'm used to it. So now they send me stuff to do with Black Friday. I'm still used to it. I'm used to getting those emails and seeing the offers. So it's not a surprise, and I'm quite happy to receive them, because I'm going, well, I'll take a look at that this time. So, really, Tamar's just said you've got to think of interesting stuff to say once a week, which is actually an interesting point. It's like, it's not necessarily about coming up with something interesting. It's basically communication. It's like chatting to your mates. And we get
email then.
So we get emails all the time from customers going, I don't subscribe to any email lists, but I always open yours. And which is a great sign that I've got the level of conversation right. And I know Tamar came on a little bit late, but we talked about not being boring. And it's like, if you tell stories, if you don't baffle them with nerdy techie information. I've stopped talking about green powder years ago, but I'm still able to communicate with our customers. Green powder, broccoli, spinach, digestive enzymes, wheatgrass, spirulina. Nobody wants to read about that boring stuff. However, they do want to read about my opinion to do with the Impossible Burger, or why I think the carnivores of the world have missed a trick with their marketing campaigns this last 12 months. And when you start talking about those things, it's current media, it's current stuff, and I'm expressing an opinion. People might not necessarily agree with me, but it's interesting and entertaining to them to read my slightly off the wall, weird way of discussing veganism. And so, that's how you look at what's interesting stuff to say. It's what's happening in your world, what's happening in the world of your customers, your potential audience, what's relevant to them right now. And it doesn't have to be about green powder, and it doesn't have to be about broccoli sprouts, because that's boring. So yeah, really, you should be able to come up with something which is relevant within your industry, or relevant to your customers' lives right now, and that's how you communicate with them.
I mean, the email doesn't need to be about what you're promoting. The call to action has to be, and the transition needs to blend your email to your call to action.
Sometimes it doesn't.
Anything.
Sometimes it doesn't with mine. I basically I talk about like, I don't know, the Impossible Burger, which has got nothing to do with like, Lean Greens. And I go, oh, by the way, you might as well subscribe to Lean Greens, subscription program while you're here. Off you go. Here's the link. And it's like, there is no transition at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's acceptable because that's what people expect from you because they've been on your list for so long. It's people have this impression of email marketing that's generally speaking wrong. Now, if you listen to Andre
I've actually just got it right in the comments. Like the last comment, just get chatty.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it shows you that you're a real human being if you actually hold an opinion and that you have thoughts and concepts and ideas and values and beliefs that may or may not reflect your customers, but at least they know where you stand. And it's like talking to a friend in a cafe about your opinion on, I don't know, Brexit or Boris Johnson or the Impossible Burger or vegans or whatever. It's just like chatting to a friend in a cafe.
Yesterday, I went to go to the chiropractor, and I got 2 ideas for emails just walking there. The first was one of the main electrical retailers in Spain, Wharton. They're running a Black Friday XXL sale, so their sale is from November the 1st to December the 2nd. That's their Black Friday sale. How it's expanded to a whole month now. The second was the local police had a little advert up saying, please register. For every 2,500 people we get 4 more police officers. Because over here, the government pays the town based on how many people have got registered living there. That's actually a really good idea. Then I thought, actually, I bet you couldn't do that in the UK. Because people go, civil liberties. But it's actually a really good idea because if you base how much you give a town on the number of people who live there, no one can argue. So Kensington, with their 500,000 million pound houses there, whatever, is that really even the number, would get exactly the same amount for services as Manchester, somewhere in the dark side of Manchester. Makes so much sense. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'd say, the subjects that you talk about, it doesn't have to be anything to do with your market at all. You can generally always find a link, a hook that was going to be interesting to your end customer. There's one more thing.
One of the other points I've got.
Go on.
Nicely segmented imagery. When you're writing your emails, don't just write in bland, boring language. Use imagery. Use word pictures. Talk about the smell of bacon coming out of the cafe as you walk past. If you talk about Impossible Burgers, talk about the beetroot juice oozing out of it. Because then anybody who's seen it, it triggers in their brain, and they'll remember the email. It links back. I'm reading an amazing series of books at the moment. That's not for everyone. Called The Rivers of London, and it's about like a police officer who's actually an apprentice wizard. Now it sounds very Harry Potterish, and it is a little bit Harry Potterish, but it's obviously done for adults. But they talk about vestigia, which are remnants that everyone can detect, but most people don't, which are like smells and flashbacks. And they liken it to, when you suddenly walk in, suddenly, deja vu. That's sort of vestigia. But yeah, Rivers of London, man, excellent books, really good. And I'm not into the whole supernatural stuff, but and the guy's writing style is amazing as well. He's got an amazing turn of phrase. Well, just reading it just for saying, "Oh, I could do that in an email," which I've done. Like I'm on 3 books in 10 days now. Book 3 after 10 days. Yeah. I'll put a link in the comments.
So I've got one more thing, and then I think we'll be done. Basically, one other thing that actually helps massively with open rates is list cleansing, and we talked about it briefly last week. But one of the things that I would certainly suggest you do, if you're struggling with open rates, and I said this to my friend who has only got 4.5% open rates on his emails, I basically said to him, change your email service, but before you import the list across to the new email service provider, whack your list through Never Bounce. And this is always a good thing to do. You can actually like tie in Never Bounce into your email service provider. So what will happen is it will, and this you can actually do is I think it's up to 1,000 emails a month that they will check for free. So like if you're, say for example, you've got an opt-in page, it will check the email before it goes onto your email service, into your email platform, and it will check it for things like misspelling of like the domain name. So things like, say for example, it's Joe Smith at Hotmail, and they've forgotten to put the .com bit on. It will adjust and fix those things. It will fix like when somebody's put, Hmail rather than Gmail, for example, as being like the domain. So it'll fix things like that, but it'll also check to see whether it's a legitimate email or not, i.e. they'll check to see whether it bounces, which will save you a whole lot of stress and bother when you send out bulk emails and you get a whole bunch of bounces and people's emails not working for whatever reason. So it's a good idea to do that. It's, really, really keep those lists as clean as possible, because even a really, really tiny bounce rate. So even if you only have, say, for example, you've got a list of 500 people and you get, four of those bounce, that's 1% bounce rate, which is horrific in the eyes of your email service provider. And they're going to punish you for that. So certainly like look at cleansing your list as much as possible of all the bounces. So Never Bounce. I think there's another one called Zero Bounce. I'm not affiliated to either of them.
I actually checked out Never Bounce last week because Andre uses it on his ARM stuff. That's where it came to my radar. I couldn't work out how to get it set up. I just left it.
It's a bit of a nerdy thing to set up, to hook it up to your particular, to integrate it with your email service provider, but certainly for bulk. So like if you're moving from one email platform to another, which in some cases is the best thing that you can do, is to basically go, you know what, Active Campaign is not working for me, so I'm going to move everything wholesale across to ConvertKit or Drip or wherever. And it's like instead of just wholesale importing everything across, is put it through Never Bounce first. It will remove duplicates. It will fix a whole bunch of like incorrect email addresses, and it will also delete or get rid of all of the bouncing emails, or the ones which bounce. So it's cheap to do as well. It's like less than a 1 cent per email. So if you've got 500 emails, it's like $5. Really, it makes sense to do it. So yeah, that's a real strong recommendation for you to do.
Yeah. So that's probably it for the day. So we had on-page tracking, we had segmentation, we're allowing people to opt out. I promise I'll do it next time. Using emojis in the subject line, 8-word, maximum of 8 word subject lines, using imagery, stroke word pictures.
We also had second subject line. We had obviously the email resend. We had don't be boring. Like remember the old, like, the not so late Dan Kennedy's market message media match. If you don't know what that is, go get Dan Kennedy's ultimate guide. Ultimate sales letter book.
I think that was in part of the SMO reading club last month.
Was it? It's honestly, read it again, read it for a 5th time. Honestly, it's the one Dan Kennedy book that I've still got readily on my shelf. I pick up all the time because it's the fundamentals of copywriting at the very least. But yeah, that whole point of media market message is so fundamental to all of your communication. Get folk to reply to your emails. Switch ESPs and Never Bounce, so list cleanse. super important. So lots and lots of like real like small tips, but when you add all of those together, your whole email marketing strategy starts to really buzz. It's like it's that whole the incremental sort of things. What do they call it? The in cycling world.
Yeah, I know. Saying gains.
Marginal gains.
Yeah, marginal gains. That's it.
But it's like each of them in their own right will produce like an extra couple of percent here or there. But put together, instead of getting a 20% open rate and a 1% click through, you're getting 40% open rate and a 3 to 5% click through rate, which suddenly makes a substantial difference to your email marketing strategy, and it makes it worthwhile.
That's a really interesting comment that Tamar made, which is I would Aweber support that they remove bounced emails. That's actually a bad thing.
Yes.
Because emails can bounce for numerous reasons that don't mean there's a problem. If somebody's, if Gmail's down, can you imagine if Gmail was down and the email bounced and anyway went, oh yes, gone. That's half your list gone.
I think you can set parameters, certainly on things like drip, for example. You can go, if you have 3 emails on the bounce, then you can it quarantines them, moves them to one side. So I don't know whether Aweber has specific settings. I would double check with Aweber to see what their tolerances are, because obviously, everybody at some point has a bounced email. So, and if you say, as you say, if Gmail goes down for whatever reason, then every single Gmail account will down. We've had things like Yahoo and MSN and Hotmail, or whatever you want to call it these days. Basically, no emails being delivered to any Hotmail accounts on a particular email, and you suddenly realise that 72 of your email of your however many thousands of emails have gone out have not been delivered. So it's worthwhile, which is why things like doing the resend is good, because it's actually you can try a different headline and things like that, which will then perhaps not get a bounce. But ultimately, you're trying. There should be some tolerances on that. It shouldn't delete them on the first bounce.
Yeah, should be. Right.
Fraser Nielsen say, is he still alive? By the way, as far as I know, good old Dan.
It's the mystery of 2019.
He is the stubborn old leather boot of the internet marketing world. Love Dan Kennedy to bits. And he's still going strong, apparently. Like, if you go to, I think it's dankennedytribute.com, he's got his latest comment from about a month ago.
That he's got a live feed, have they? That would be the next thing. Having a paid live feed.
Well, yeah, they were meant to be having, like, I think there was meant to be a conference, like a no BS conference, that they were basically it was going to be a full-on tribute to Dan Kennedy. And like, as it stands, it's not going to be much of a tribute because he's still going to be alive. They'll probably wheel him out onto the stage. Oh, good on him, honestly. Best bit of marketing of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Actually, you may have a point there. Yeah. I'm not going to say that out loud. Right. I think that's about it for the week, isn't it?
I think that was a useful, hopefully a useful thing. Again, like we did last week, if you can do us a favor and like comment below or comment above or to the side or wherever this thing appears, I don't know. If you could just let us know, like, what do you think of those tips? Which ones have you used? Which ones do you not use? Like, which ones are you going to implement? Which is the most important part of this. And then if you are not a member of SMO, our free group, it's not a Facebook group, it's a completely different type of group. Go to joinsmo.com/free. And then there's Mark's offer of the day, which is smo-sale.com, which is email infotainer and various other bits and pieces that I think he's going to chuck in there as well. So go check that out.
Really don't, because most people won't be listening this far. I mean, it's just an experiment. I thought, you know what, I've got Thinkific, and it's got everything in place to do this. So hey, let's test how it goes.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I've just seen a message from Anders saying, use Tim's advice and resend email to list that didn't open the first time. yeah, it's one of the most simple things that you can do. And I can't remember where I got it from. I think it might have been an Andre thing. Added 10% to the opens email. Absolutely. And it's like, you'll see that gradually increase as you experiment with different timings and different subject lines and stuff like that. Normally we get about 20 to 25% open rate on the first email. And then we add easily another 15% of the overall list to who open the second email, and then there's the subsequent clicks and purchases and all that kind of stuff from that. So definitely makes sense to do that email resend. It's so simple. Just the only thing that you need to figure out on your email software is how to segment based upon whether somebody's opened or not. And I know Ian said last week that it's not the most reliable thing, but it's about as good as we're going to get. So it makes a difference to us.
There's something else I wanted to mention. Right, Active Campaign. You know that they've gone all in for AI. They built this whole big black box on the back end. So you can do predictive sending now. So if you set, it will predict when someone's going to open, so it'll send just before that. They've now got predictive call to actions. So you give it 3 or 4 call to actions, it will choose the one that the person who's receiving it is most likely to respond to. And that's this is the first like 2-3 months they've been doing it. Can you imagine what this is going to be like in 2 years' time? You're not even going to have to write an email. You're just going to go, I want to sell this product to this list of people, and it's going to create your emails and send them. I reckon that's where it's going.
I think so some of the things that Klaviyo, if you're American, do is they've got things like predictive analytics based upon when somebody's most likely to buy again for the next time, and if they miss that date of when they predicted to buy for the second time or the third time or whatever, then you can send out sequences based upon that. But it's also doing predictions based upon, I think it's the person's name. It figures out whether they're male or female, so you can actually adjust the language of your text based upon whether they're male or female. Quite incredible. I think it's a little bit dangerous, because certain names in different languages are switch genders, if you like. Certainly US to the UK, and also in France as well. There's names that don't convert from male to female; they switch around. So, but yeah, very clever. How do they do that? Magic. Yeah.
Right.
It's all very ninja.
Well, I'm not even going to put that one down. Thanks, Ian. You've got us to the end of the show again. Right, guys. See you later. Oh, hang on. Hang on. That's like the sumo.com Shopify email service that does this and take me a 5% cut of salad generated. It's called FAM, I think. Yeah, it's FAM actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
That went straight off my head, those ones when they came out, because you all know my views on e-commerce.
Sumo have come up with some interesting tools, which is just spectacular. But I think there's other platforms that are, certainly with things like Klaviyo, their data sort of team is incredible. They've really got it nailed with predictive analytics, literally down to the day like that they expect somebody to buy, and it's proper ninja. So yeah, super smart. Sales. Yeah, we know what you mean, Fraser. But yeah, I preferred salads. Yeah. Dear. But I think it's a bit dodgy when they start taking a cut of the sales. I always take a bit of an issue when they take a percentage of it. It's like, you're providing a service, yes, but don't take a percentage, because that's like, that's a significant chunk. 5% to them doesn't seem like a much, but 5% to me as an e-commerce like product provider, 5% could easily be 25 to 50% of my profit is being taken. So yeah, it's a bit dangerous, that. So anyway, but that's for another rant for another day. So we'll leave it at that, shall we, Mark?
Yeah. Peace out. Have a great weekend.
Speak to you later.